Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. ICRC presents a new way to help families and communities cope with and manage the challenges of caregiving with a shorter form of audio respite. This corner chat is a quick and easy listen for those who need a break from caregiving, encouraging words, or just enjoy this podcast. It is dedicated to caregivers who help and care for family members and friends. We bring to you the final episode of the Ailing Caregivers Corner Chat. Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the final Inland Caregivers Corner Chat. I hope those listening enjoyed the previous episode of the Inland Caregivers Corner Chat. The episode celebrated Black History Month and provided meaningful ways to celebrate Black History Month. I also shared 3 books by Black authors that I either have read or will read. Those books being So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Ulowu, The Fire This Time, A New Generation Talks About Race by Jesmyn Ward, and Harlem Shuffle by Colston Whitehead. Any listeners who listened to that episode, please comment on the YouTube post and let us know if you read or are going to read the books suggested, or if you have your own suggestions of books by Black authors or other ways to celebrate Black History Month. I'd love to hear them. If you have not listened to the last chat episode, please give it a listen on YouTube. Just search Inland Caregiver Resource Center on YouTube, and you can find the episodes there, previous episodes there. For those new or existing listeners of the Inland Caregivers Corner podcast who may not be familiar with the Inland Caregiver Corner chat, these episodes are shorter than the regular Caregivers Corner podcast episodes. These episodes are meant to be a quick burst of encouragement, information, and motivation to provide and inspire you. For those who have been listening from episode 1, thank you for your time and your support of the podcast. To those just getting started today, welcome and thank you for your time. I'm your host, Derek Chacon, a care coordinator with Inland Caregiver Resource Center. It is March 2022. I hope all listeners are becoming their best self, crushing goals, and enjoying the beautiful new year. On this episode, we'll be celebrating Women's History Month and Social Work Appreciation Month. I want to recognize that International Women's Day is on Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. And St. Patrick's Day is going to be on Thursday, March 17th, 2022. So for this podcast, I first want to wish a happy Women's Herstory Month to all women. Women's History Month originated in 1981 when Congress passed Pub L, I'm not sure what that means, 97 through 28, which authorized and requested the president proclaim the week beginning March 7th in 1982 as Women's History Week. During the next 5 years, Congress continued to pass joint resolutions designating a week in March as Women's History Week. And in 1987, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress passed Pub L 100 through 9, and this designated the month of March 1987 as Women's History Month. Between 1988 and 1994, Congress passed additional resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim that March each year as Women's History Month. Since 1995, presidents have issued a series of annual proclamations designating the month of March as Women's History Month. These proclamations celebrate the contributions that women have made to the United States and recognize the specific achievements women have made over the course of American history in a variety of fields. So all this information was taken from womenshistorymonth.gov. If you'd like further information on that, you can definitely check out the website. Also in March, we have Social Worker Appreciation Month. National Social Work Month was first organized in March of 1963 by the National Association of Social Workers as a way to encourage public support for the profession of social work. And then in 1984, a joint resolution of Congress was passed and was proclaimed by President Reagan under Proclamation 5167 on March 22nd as National Professional Social Work Month. The information was taken from nationaldaycalendar.com. I know it's not too reliable a source, but there is also the National Association of Social Workers that can be found online for further information. And so certain ways to celebrate Social Worker Appreciation Month is you could show your support for a social worker you know, consider a career in social work, learn about the different services provided by social workers, share with others why social work is important to you as a career or as a recipient of services. The theme for Social Work Month of 2022 is "The Time is Right for Social Work." This month, please take time to learn more about the many positive contributions of the profession and celebrate the social workers you know. I just want to say thank you to all the social workers of ICRC. I appreciate you, and I thank you for all the hard work and services you provide to the community. And so one thing else I would like to do is, because it is Women's History Month, I'd like to go ahead and provide some info on famous female family caregivers. So we have Eleanor Roosevelt, who in the early 1920s, Franklin Roosevelt's polio condition left him paralyzed, and his wife Eleanor assumed the role of caregiver and wife and mother, and she eventually became First Lady when FDR became the president in 1933. When FDR passed away, Eleanor remained an advocate for those who could not care for themselves. We also have Anne Sullivan. She cared for Helen Keller, who lost her sight and hearing from scarlet fever in her infancy. Anne is credited with helping Helen move past all her understandable obstacles and learn to speak and even become a public speaker. Debbie Reynolds, most known Debbie Reynolds as a famous actress during Hollywood's golden era, starring in Singing in the Rain and The Catered Affair. She also was the voice of Charlotte in Charlotte's Web. So many don't realize that Debbie became a family caregiver at 14 for her mom and her grandmother, both of whom had heart conditions. Later, she helped care for her father and her mother-in-law. Around 80, she also became a close friend's caregiver whose family had abandoned her. She also helped care for her famous daughter, Carrie Fisher, who as a teen started showing signs of depression and bipolar disorder. In December 2016, the world grieved the loss of both her daughter, both Carrie Fisher and her mother, within a mere day of each other. And then we also have Rosalind Carter, a 2001 inductee into the Women's Hall of Fame, and the former First Lady of the U.S. Rosalind Carter was introduced to caregiving at 12 years old when her father was diagnosed with terminal leukemia. She has since cared for other family members and has written a few books about caring for others. And then lastly, I want to go ahead and acknowledge Holly Robinson Peete, who was an actress. She was squeezed into the sandwich generation, so she cares for her son with autism and her father with Parkinson's. Autism is the fastest growing developmental disorder in the U.S., and nearly 1 million live with that disease. In 1997, Holly, along with her husband, former NFL quarterback Rodney Peete, formed the Holly Rod Foundation. So those were just a few of the famous women caregivers that I wanted to acknowledge for Women's History Month. I want to go ahead and leave with a quote from Holly Robinson Peete. Many women arrange their lives around the people they love. Unfortunately, that arrangement takes up most of our days. And so that shows, just that she puts emphasis on caring for her loved ones, as I'm sure many who listen to this podcast also do. That arrangement takes up a lot of your lives. So I just want to thank all women on this episode and thank you for all you do, and just celebrate Women's History Month. I hope everyone enjoyed the very last episode of the Inland Caregivers Corner chat. Thank you all to the listeners and supporters of this podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for sharing the podcast and telling someone about it if you did. It has been a pleasure creating these episodes for you all. Please continue to listen to past episodes as they will stay up on Inland Caregiver Resource Center's the YouTube page. If you, your neighbor, a friend, relative, or colleague need resources with caregiving, please contact Inland Caregiver Resource Center at 800-675-6694. Add us on Facebook at facebook.com/ICRC1985. You can follow us on Instagram at Inland Caregiver. Like and subscribe to Inland Caregiver Resource Center on YouTube, and of course check out our wonderful website at www.inlandcaregivers.org. Thank you for listening to Inland Caregivers Corner and Inland Caregivers Corner Chat. It was a pleasure providing information and resources to you, the listener, as we continue to cope with and manage the challenges of caregiving together. I am Derek Chacon, and continue to care for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Take care.